Good day, I'm Michael Salgaller. I'm with the Technology Transfer Center within the National Institutes of Health. I'd like to express my appreciation to NIH and their partners for including me in your event. And I'm going to speak today about the National Institutes of Health as a technology commercialization partner. So this shows our campus in Bethesda, Maryland. We're the largest basic biomedical research institute in the world, and we have a many-fold mission, some of which points are shown on this slide. We create technologies that then generate IP, which then can be developed and commercialized. We try to attract additional resources so we can do more work and obtain return on the public investment since we are funded by the government of the US. And we do this work to both benefit public health, but importantly, we also do it to stimulate economic development. And I'm going to touch on both the economic development piece as well as the public health piece during my presentation. So there's many different ways that businesses, different for-profit stakeholders can interact with the National Institutes of Health. You can in-license, which I'll describe briefly today. You can collaborate or partner with us. We also do acquire and purchase services, products, etc. And we also, of course, are a major funder in the world of research. And we also have numerous information sources that the public can utilize. But today, I'll be focusing on our commercial activities that primarily involve licensing and collaboration. So there's a number of common misconceptions about the NIH, and I'd like to address those up front. One is that we only do basic research. And as I said, we are the largest basic biomedical research center in the world. However, we also do translational work and also clinical work. We don't just study small and large molecules. We don't just do basic biology and chemistry. We also work with devices, diagnostics, biomarkers, and are into the digital health realm with wearables. And we also have a number of research tools that can be obtained from us on a non-exclusive licensing basis. You do not have to be located in the US. We partner internationally. So your company or your organization does not need to be located in the US. You do not have to have a US office or footprint. Also importantly, the US does not have to be part of your go-to-market strategy. Now, I realize that the US market is most commonly what a lot of companies wish to penetrate. However, for example, if your company first wants to get your product approved through the EU and the EMA, that's fine. We're agnostic to where you go to market. And the final misconception is that we only help develop things that we ourselves come up with. And actually, ideas can originate in company partners. So you can bring ideas to us, and the IP involved with those ideas remains yours, and we can further develop them together. So a couple quick examples of the types of products that we've been involved with. I certainly want to mention Gardasil. It's the world's first preventative cancer vaccine. Quite an amazing accomplishment, if you think about it, to actually have a vaccine that can prevent the onset of cancer. We do work in dozens of diseases and disorders, including mental health disorders. Spravato was a nasal spray for numerous mental health issues such as depression and suicidal tendencies that was co-developed with the National Institutes of Health. And one of the products that we're actually best known for is squirrel-proof bird food. So we license our technologies for all sorts of different markets, and we discovered the capsaicin molecule, which to mammals is detected with a lot of heat and unpleasantness, but birds don't have those taste receptors. So we've actually licensed it out to bird food manufacturers to produce squirrel-proof bird food. So we're organized by 27 institutes and centers. We don't just do basic science. We also do treatment work, prevention, detection and diagnosis. We also work with survivors of these diseases and disorders, their causes and risk factors as well. We're divided organizationally into 27 institutes and centers that are focused on either a disease disorder, such as cancer or an infectious disease, or by organ system, such as the National Eye Institute or the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So our particular office at the National Cancer Institute is responsible for partnering, licensing, and other company-related activities, not just for us, but also for 9 other institutes and centers that are smaller, and they outsource their needs to us. So we also cover diseases and disorders, significant unmet medical needs associated with aging, child health, minority health and health disparities, ophthalmic disorders, drug abuse and pain, and our clinical center, among others. Now, if your company appears in one of the white boxes, as in the disease or disorder that you're addressing is represented in one of the white boxes, such as allergy, infectious disease, diabetes, neurological disorders, dental and craniofacial research, cardiovascular and respiratory problems, what our office would do is provide you a contact at the relevant institute and center so that you can then begin discussions about a potential relationship. So we have many agreements. Just at NCI, we do a huge amount of agreements. In fact, we do 5 a day. So we have a very large office. When you come to us, you don't need to know which agreement would be best for you. Now, all our agreements are available online. Templates are available, so you can see and look on your own, but we're happy to do a needs assessment with you to help determine which is the best for your purpose. These agreements often address technology or knowledge gaps within your company or entity. The licensing can be used to bolster your pipeline. Now, as far as a collaboration, it's often asked who does what and who pays for what. Well, it's on a case-by-case basis, and it's negotiated. Typically, both sides share the effort, and both sides help support the work. It's important to mention that we're not a contract research organization, and we don't do sponsored research. What that means is if your company has the money to do a project and knows exactly what you'd like to do, and you're simply looking for a key opinion leader to conduct that work for you, we're probably not the right door for you to knock on. Our collaborations have to be true collaborations. We don't just do a project to bring in money. So they need to really be an exchange of ideas and effort. There's many advantages for your company and for your clients if you happen to be, for example, a professional services firm. You get access to unique reagents and resources if you wish. We have hundreds of tools available to companies on a at-cost basis. Those can be dozens of disease-specific mouse models. Those can be reagents, antibodies, cell lines, and other types of research tools. You also can leverage access to our scientific and regulatory expertise. We can bring in regulatory experts to, on an ad hoc as needed basis, weigh in to make sure that the project is headed in a direction that the FDA might look favorably upon. Now, this does not replace any of your formal meetings with the FDA. It does not replace in any way your own in-house regulatory expertise, but we can have these folks brought in as needed to weigh in on how the project is being designed. It's important to mention that I feel we have a very unique business model and a very compelling business model because we're publicly funded by the US government. And because we're publicly funded by the US government, we have the money we need to operate. So we don't look at companies that might want to license from or partner with us as sources of revenue. We do take in dollars through those mechanisms, but we're not trying to take in as much money as possible. An example of that on the licensing side is we take zero upfront equity, and often we take zero equity throughout the whole process. And I'm a former entrepreneur and venture capitalist. And so I'm fond of saying that I like zero. Zero is a really good number for me. If you can license something in from a well-established organization such as the NIH and not be diluted, that's good for your company, that's good for your current investors, and that's certainly good when you look to raise additional capital. And then the terms of this licensing agreement would follow what the regulations term fair value for the public dollar, in which case we're most likely trying to get just a little bit more than what our costs are. So most other research entities, their business model, you could say in licensing, is to maximize the amount of dollars that they're trying to bring in, where ours is more fair value for the public dollar. Collaborations. Many of these collaborations lead to new intellectual property. Now, working with us does not have any overhead or indirect costs. And at least in the US, if you're going to collaborate with a major university research institute, the overhead or indirect cost rate, which is basically a profit center for the institution, can be 70%, 100% or greater. So ours is zero. So even if you're asked to contribute financially to a collaboration, at least you know that every dollar you put in is going to moving your product towards the market rather than a profit for the institution to help pay for incidentals like the heat and the electricity and somebody who answers the phone. We do request milestone payments and royalties, but they tend to be reasonable. Importantly, if we create new intellectual property, we can't create a new spin-out company and then compete with you for the technology we just created together. In fact, you as the company would get right of first refusal to an exclusive license. So there's no risk that another company will get the technology unless you turn it down. Now, there's a lot of advantages for us as well. We get access to your really interesting, cutting edge, disruptive innovations. We get to work with your cool stuff. We also need your commercial development expertise. Even if you're an earlier stage company, you're at least focused on how to get it from bench to bedside to the marketplace. And our expertise is the bench and a little bit towards the bedside, but we need your expertise to get these products to the patients around the world who desperately need them. Some of these collaborations do provide additional funding so we can do additional research at the NIH. And certainly, most importantly, we get the satisfaction of seeing unmet medical needs addressed. So got validation, clinical validation. This is our clinical center at the National Institutes of Health. A little fun fact, it's actually the largest brick building in the United States, and it houses our clinical center and hospitals. We're actually the largest clinical investigation center in the world. At any one time, we have over 1,000 clinical trials going on. What almost all of them have in common is that almost all of them are first in human. That is, they're experimental concepts being tried for the first time in really the only animal model that matters, humans. So we do a lot of these type of experimental trials, and they emphasize, but not exclusively, but we do feature and focus on diseases of high public impact, significant unmet medical need, rare, orphan, and neglected diseases and disorders. You can work with our clinicians to develop state-of-the-art, not just therapeutic treatments, but diagnostics and preventative measures as well. We're the world largest holder of investigational new drug applications. So if your company would prefer we hold the IND, we certainly have experience in doing that. With you, we can also study the mechanism of action, disease pathogenesis, et cetera, and you can ensure that these trials are conducted in a way that ensures ethical, efficient, and high scientific quality. So it's important to emphasize that what I'm describing is a partnership, a collaboration that you might do with any other major research institute or university. So it's not a special program like our direct funding programs. This is distinct. This is working with our own faculty in Bethesda, Maryland. So it's not competitive. There's no application deadlines and margin limits and page limits that you need to worry about. A lot of these collaborations, we do provide, though, indirect support, which means we do spend money on your behalf. An example could be that you provide us an experimental drug for a certain disease or disorder. So we do ask that you, for example, might pay to manufacture the compound under the correct manufacturing protocols and test it and that sort of thing. But then when you ship it to us, a common arrangement is that we would then conduct and cover the costs of the animal proof of concept study. So it's not direct grant funding. We're not directly giving you funding. However, we are spending money on your behalf. And money that we spend on your behalf means less money that you have to account for in your burn rate, as well as less money that you have to raise in your next round of financing. To get started, well, you're doing it today, and I'll have my contact information at the end, and also the organizers from NIH have my full contact information. We want to talk to you about your company's technologies to make sure it's a strategic fit. Do we have programs in what you're exploring? And also, do those programs not conflict with what you have going on in your company? And then when I say know your ask, it's basically your proposed research plan. What do you want to do with us? Especially if you're a platform technology company, you're going to need to pick which of the different applications of your platform technology you specifically want to work with us on. And then our office helps identify somebody internal, one of our own faculty, to want to work with you, and then you're off and running. An example overseas is shown here. It's a company called Aussivax in Lyon, and they were connected with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases because they are focused on vaccines. And so about a year and a half ago, they entered into an agreement with NIAID to help advance their universal flu candidate. And what's wonderful is that that relationship has expanded in the year and a half. So NIAID's suite of preclinical services to do immunological assessment is now part of the relationship, as are tests to do flow cytometry and other characterizations. And that will help the company get a deeper understanding of their technology as it moves forward. An example I'm going to show here is one where it's a little bit atypical to how we're usually thought of, in that it's a medical device. It's not biologic, it's not chemical, it's a medical device. And it was a technology that was brought to us by a company called Somnology that was developing a wearable sleep monitoring device. When sleep studies are done, I do not know if you've ever had one, but they're typically done at a sleep center, which is some strange location, and you're hooked up to a device by a stranger and put in a strange room and told to sleep normally, which can be very challenging to do. So this definitely offers lower stress and more convenience by allowing you to do sleep studies in one's own home. So we met them at a conference, and we had a couple meetings with them to get a better idea of their technology. And then we were able to identify a clinician running a clinical trial that needed to use their device. And so we negotiated with them what's called a research collaboration agreement. And in 3 months, this was executed, and now their device is being used in a clinical study. And the data the company will have access to, the company will then use that to raise their next round of equity investment. So we have a number of what I like to call drop the mic moments as far as our business model and how it is commercialization friendly. One is our success rate. If you added up all the product sales from products either licensed directly from us or co-developed with us, in 2019, it came to over $5 billion. Again, if you license something from us, whether it's developed solely at NIH or co-developed with you, we take no upfront equity. We won't take the IP that you come in with. We don't have overhead rates or indirect costs. You can work with us to validate your technology preclinically or clinically. You can access world-renowned thought leaders and our resources, and you get the prestige factor of working with a world-renowned organization. So in this graph, the x-axis is the total amount of venture capital money raised in the United States in 2020, but this does reflect rest of world. And on the y-axis are the different types of diseases and disorders getting the 12 areas that were most funded by VCs in 2020. And if you look at the check marks that represent which ones NIH covers in our 27 institutes and centers, you'll see that we literally cover every disease and disorder that was the target of venture capital raising in 2021. Also, working with us can offer significant funding and commercialization advantages. If you look at the top table, working with us through licensing can lead to funding. A company, very small company called Miracule, licensed a technology and was founded upon that technology in 2017. And since then, most recently has achieved a $3.7 million seed closing and also was awarded a $2 million small business innovative research grant. A company a little bit more down the line in development is Recruit Medical. They were largely founded around our assets in 2013. Soon after, got a $13 million Series A, and since then have garnered over $300 million in equity investment. Kite was largely founded around our assets and was acquired in 2017 by Gilead for $11 billion. More recently, Mist Therapeutics was acquired by Turnstone Biologics. And although the terms are undisclosed, this is another example of a liquidity event that was achieved by being founded upon our assets or collaborating with us. And you can see below that technologies that were licensed from us or developed with us have led to blockbuster returns for the company. We work a lot overseas. ENRICH is now growing to represent not just Europe, but just talking about Europe for the time being. We do about 20% of our agreements with Europe. We would certainly like to see that increase. And currently we do about 40% of inquiries with for-profit entities, and we'd like to see that increase as well. So please do reach out. You have my contact information here. We do go to a number of business-to-business events, such as we'll be at JP Morgan in San Francisco in 2022. We'll be at Bio in 2022 and perhaps Bio Europe as well. Steve Ferguson is at the NIH Office of Tech Transfer and can be a very good resource for you if your area is outside oncology. If it's oncology or one of the other ones that we cover, you're welcome to reach out to me. The website for either NIH or NCI is shown on the right. You can sign up for alerts through GovDelivery. We're also on social media, and our general information email is there as well. So I thank you for your time and your attention and look forward to taking any questions. Thank you.